Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In today's episode, we're about to share some true, spine-chilling horror stories, the kind that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. But before we dive into tonight's terrifying tales, make sure to hit that like button, and if you've ever experienced something truly unnerving, we'd love to hear your story. Feel free to reach out and share your experience with us. Now, imagine this. You're completely alone, in a place where no one can hear you, when suddenly something unexplainable happens, something that defies all logic. What if I told you this is a true story? Tonight, we'll unravel a chilling mystery that has left experts baffled, and those who lived through it forever haunted. A real-life event where the line between the paranormal and reality blurs in a way that you have to see to believe. So, dim the lights, settle in, and get ready to discover the truth behind one of the most terrifying stories you've never heard. It was Christmas Eve 1911 in Villisca, Iowa, a small sleepy town in the United States. The Moore family, who lived in a charming wooden house on the corner of 2nd Street, had been looking forward to a peaceful holiday. The father, Josiah Moore, had spent the day with his wife, Sarah, and their 4 children. The 2 girls, Catherine and Shirley, were excited for the gifts Santa would bring, while their older brothers, Paul and Arthur, were filled with the usual energy that children have before a major holiday. The house was decorated with a beautiful tree, and stockings hung on the mantel. As night fell, they were joined by the Stillinger sisters, Lena and Ina, who were close friends of the Moore children. The Stillinger girls were staying the night, and their parents had entrusted them to Josiah and Sarah's care. Together, the 2 families had a modest Christmas Eve dinner, shared stories, and laughed as the wind howled outside. It seemed like the perfect, quiet holiday. But when the morning light of Christmas Day broke, what they found in the Moore house was far from what anyone could imagine. Around 7 a.m., Mary Peckham, a neighbor, grew concerned when the Moore family hadn't come out of the house for their usual morning chores. She knocked on the door, but received no answer. She went around to the back, thinking perhaps Sarah was just sleeping in after the long evening. When she opened the door, the horrifying sight that met her eyes would become one of the most notorious and chilling unsolved crimes in American history. Inside the Moore home, the bodies of all 6 family members were found in their beds, brutally murdered with an axe. But it wasn't just the Moore family that had been slaughtered. The Stillinger girls were found in the same horrifying state. The killer had used the axe to murder the victims while they were asleep, and there was no sign of a struggle. Even more disturbing was the fact that the killer had covered the victims' faces with cloths after each murder, and had set up a bizarre and unsettling scene. The curtains had been drawn, and a basin of bloody water was found in the room, indicating that the killer had stayed in the house for an unknown amount of time, almost as if they were waiting for something. The town of Villisca was in shock. The Christmas Day murders, later known as the Villisca Axe murders, were especially eerie because they had occurred on Christmas Eve, a time meant for celebration, warmth, and joy. Instead, the families were killed in the dead of night, their lives brutally taken just hours before the holiday. The investigation was chaotic, with multiple suspects, but no concrete evidence ever surfaced to pin the crime on anyone. A man named Reverend George Kelly, who had been in the area at the time, was even arrested and tried. but the case was dismissed due to lack of evidence. To this day, the identity of the murderer remains a mystery, and the house where the murders occurred has become a focal point for paranormal activity and eerie occurrences. After the murders, the house remained vacant for several years, and rumors of strange happenings began to spread. People reported hearing the sounds of children laughing and playing near the house late at night. Some claimed to hear the horrifying sound of an axe chopping through the silence. It wasn't long before paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, and curious onlookers began to visit the house. Those who ventured inside reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and unease. Some even claimed to have seen ghostly apparitions of the Moore family, still dressed in their night clothes, wandering the hallways. One of the most disturbing accounts comes from a ghost hunter named David, who visited the Villisca axe murder house with a team of investigators in the 2000s. As they explored the upstairs bedroom where the Moore children had been killed, David's camera malfunctioned in a way that no one could explain. The footage began to glitch, showing distorted images of the children's faces and strange shadows darting across the room. Then, inexplicably, the team heard loud footsteps coming from the attic, even though no one was up there. When they went to investigate, they found nothing. The atmosphere in the house had shifted. It felt as though something was watching them. Other investigators have reported similar experiences. The scent of fresh flowers often fills the air, even though the house is old and dilapidated. Some visitors claim to hear whispers coming from the children's room, while others feel a cold, oppressive presence, particularly around Christmas time. It seems as though the tragedy of that Christmas night, nearly a century earlier, has never left the house. The ghosts of the Moore family and the Stillinger sisters seem trapped in the house, forever reliving their final horrific night. Despite the eerie paranormal activity surrounding the house, the most chilling aspect of the Villisca axe murders is the unsolved mystery of the killer's identity. Over the years, many theories have emerged, but none have been proven conclusively. Some believe that the killer was someone who knew the Moore family, possibly a close acquaintance, while others suggest that it could have been a traveling murderer who committed similar crimes in other parts of the country. One of the most intriguing suspects is Reverend George Kelly, who was known to be in Villisca at the time of the murders. He had reportedly confessed to the crime under hypnosis, but later recanted. Despite being tried, Kelly was never convicted. Other theories involve a man named Frank Jones, a local businessman with a known animosity toward Josiah Moore. But again, there was no hard evidence to support this claim. Even today, there are still no answers. The case remains open, but it is unclear whether the truth will ever be uncovered. The Villisca axe murders serve as a reminder that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. This gruesome crime, set against the backdrop of a holiday meant for joy, is one of the most tragic and haunting stories in American history. The fact that it took place on Christmas Eve, the night before one of the most widely celebrated holidays, adds a layer of eerie symbolism to the story, making it one of the most chilling, real-life Christmas horror stories ever told. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, there's no denying the strange and unsettling occurrences that have continued to haunt the Villisca axe murder house. Every year, visitors brave the old house, hoping to unravel its dark secrets. But in doing so, they often find themselves facing a chilling reminder that some places and some stories never truly let go. And as Christmas approaches, the spirits of the Moore family and the Stillinger girls may still be waiting in the shadows, their tragic story echoing through the halls of that haunted house. In the midst of the Bavarian countryside, surrounded by dense forests and isolated from the rest of civilization, lies the abandoned Hinterkaifeck farm. To this day, it remains one of the most notorious sites of unsolved horror, a place where a brutal mass murder occurred, and which is now associated with ghostly whispers and unexplained phenomena. The story behind this tragedy is bound in blood, mystery, and haunting spirits, with an eerie connection to Christmas. The year was 1922, and the Hinterkaifeck farm was home to a family of 6. Andreas Gruber, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and her children, 7-year-old Josef and 2-year-old Cecilia. The farm was isolated from the nearest town by a small forest, and their closest neighbors were over a mile away. For years, the Gruber family had experienced strange occurrences on their farm. Odd noises coming from the barn, footprints in the snow that led nowhere, and a sense that they were being watched. However, none of these events were alarming enough for them to leave their home. But one fateful Christmas, something truly horrifying happened at Hinterkaifeck. On the evening of December 31st, 1922, the Gruber family gathered together to celebrate the holiday. That night, they were all brutally murdered. The killer or killers used a pickaxe, which was found in the barn afterward, to bludgeon each of the family members. The bodies of Andreas, Cecilia, and Victoria were discovered first, followed by the discovery of the 2 children and the maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had been staying with the family. Every one of them had been slaughtered in cold blood. However, the gruesome part of the story is not just the savage killings themselves, but the disturbing details that followed. After murdering the Gruber family, the killer or killers remained on the property for several days, using the farmhouse as if they were the rightful owners. They ate meals, slept in the house, and even tended to the animals. The farmhouse was not discovered until several days later, when neighbors noticed that the family had not appeared for church services or responded to any knocks on their door. When authorities arrived, they found the scene in an unimaginable state. The bodies of the family had been lying dead for days, but the murderer had carefully hidden themselves in the barn or attic, evading capture for an unnerving amount of time. Some reports suggest that the killer even interacted with the animals in the barn, as though trying to make the farm seem normal. Despite an extensive investigation, no one was ever charged with the murders. Various theories have been proposed. Was it a family dispute gone horribly wrong? Or could it have been someone from the surrounding area with a vendetta? Some suspects, like a former farmhand, were questioned, but no evidence ever pointed conclusively to a perpetrator. The crime remained unsolved. However, the mystery doesn't end there. The Hinterkaifeck murders left a dark mark on the property, which many believe still lingers to this day. Over the years, countless paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, and curious individuals have visited the farm, trying to uncover the truth behind the mysterious murders. And many of them report strange, chilling experiences. One story is particularly eerie. It's said that after the murders, the sounds of footsteps can still be heard on Christmas Eve. On the anniversary of the murders, locals claim that the house comes alive again, with the sounds of creaking floorboards and the occasional whisper of voices. People who have dared to enter the house have described the overwhelming sensation of being watched, as though the spirits of the murdered family are still trapped in the house, unable to move on. But it's not just the house that is said to be haunted. People who visit the surrounding land, particularly the forest near the farm, often report hearing strange rustling noises and whispers in the trees. It is as if the spirits of the Gruber family are trying to reach out, but they are unable to communicate. Some claim they have seen figures moving among the trees, while others feel an oppressive, ghostly presence following them when they walk near the farm. One particularly chilling account comes from a man named Helmut, a local who lived near Hinterkaifeck. In the 1960s, he was dared by his friends to visit the farm on Christmas Eve, after a few too many drinks. Helmut was known for being a skeptic, and the stories of hauntings surrounding the farm didn't faze him. But as he stepped onto the land that night, he immediately felt something was wrong. The air was unnaturally cold, and the once quiet forest was filled with an eerie silence. Helmut wandered around the abandoned farmhouse, his flashlight flickering in the dark. He reached the barn where the family had been found, and that's when he heard it, the sound of heavy breathing. He turned quickly, but there was no one in sight. His heart raced as he hurried back toward the house, only to be met with the unmistakable sound of footsteps following him. He turned again and again, but saw no one. Terrified, he ran back to his car, his mind racing with thoughts of the horrific murders that had taken place there. But the most unsettling part of Helmut's story came after he left the property. When he reached the edge of the forest, he heard something whispering behind him, something he would never forget. It was a voice, faint and barely audible, calling out in the cold winter air, "Help us." To this day, the Hinterkaifeck farm stands as a symbol of tragedy and terror, especially during the Christmas season. The haunting whispers, the footsteps, and the ghostly figures all serve as chilling reminders of the family who met their untimely deaths on that fateful Christmas Eve. The farm remains abandoned, with no one daring to live there, and the spirits of the Gruber family are said to remain trapped in the place where their lives were stolen from them. As Christmas approaches each year, the dark history of the Hinterkaifeck farm looms large over the sleepy Bavarian countryside, a place where the echoes of a brutal murder and the restless spirits of the past will never be silenced. Let me know in the comments what you think. Did the spirits of the Hinterkaifeck farm really linger? Or is there a darker truth waiting to be uncovered? Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, the shadows are always watching. Thank you for watching until the end, brave souls. If you enjoyed this chilling tale and want more spine-tingling stories that will keep you up at night, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an unsettling update.